Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Thursday, April 26, 2018. Today, I am going to recap last night's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs between the Maple Leafs and the Bruins. Recap last night's NBA action. Go over my last mock draft, Major League Baseball, and a lot more. Here we go. Bruins defeated the Maple Leafs 7-4. They move on to the second round to face the Tampa Bay Lightning. First period, Patrick Marleau on the power play started the playoffs, assisted by Jake Gardiner and William Nylander, 1-0 Maple Leafs. Later on in the first period, Jake DeBrusk, fourth of the playoffs on the power play, assisted by David Pastrnak and David Krejci, 1-1 game. Patrick Marleau, second of the game, fourth of the playoffs, assisted by Mitch Marner, 2-1 Maple Leafs. Danton Heinen's first of the playoffs, assisted by David Krejci and Rick Nash, 2-2 game. Patrice Bergeron's first of the playoffs, assisted by Kevin Miller and David Backes, 3-2 Bruins. Second period, Travis Dermott's first of the playoffs, assisted by Roman Pollock and William Nylander, 3-3 game. Kasperi Kapanen shorthanded his first of the playoffs, 4-3 Leafs. Third period, Troy Krug, Kevin Miller, and Patrice Bergeron. That's Krug's second goal of the playoffs, so it's a 4-4 game. Jake DeBrusk, second of the game, fifth of the playoffs, assisted by David Krejci, 5-4 Bruins. David Pasternak's fifth of the playoffs, assisted by Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand, 6-4 Bruins. Brad Marchand, third of the playoffs, assisted by Riley Nash and Stanley at 7-4 is your final. Tuukka Rask was good yet again, even though he kind of faltered early. 20 saves on 24 shots. Freddie Anderson, 29 saves on 35 shots. NBA, a fascinating night in the NBA. The Raptors defeated the Wizards 108-98 to take a 3-2 series lead. DeMar DeRozan, 32 points in the win. John Wall put up 26 in defeat. The Cavs defeated the Pacers 98-95 to take a 3-2 series lead thanks to a buzzer-beating three-pointer by LeBron James after blocking Victor Oladipo's potential go-ahead layup. But there's talks that probably should have been goaltending, but nope, it wasn't goaltending. And LeBron runs down the court, hits the three, and the Cavs are now up 3-2. LeBron had 44 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists in the win. Domantas Sabonis put up 22 in defeat. The Rockets defeated the Timberwolves 122-104 to move on to the second round. Clint Capella put up 26 in the win. Karl Anthony Towns put up 23 in defeat. The Thunder defeated the Jazz 107-99 after being down by 25 points in the third quarter. Very impressive. They came back to tie the game at 78 apiece before the fourth quarter. Russell Westbrook, 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists in the win. Jay Crowder put up 27 in defeat as the Thunder live to play another day. Tonight you have Celtics-Bucks, 8 o'clock on TNT. I'm going to say the Bucks force a Game 7 here as they've been awesome at home in this series. Major League Baseball, we'll go over their scores real quick before I get to my last mock draft. The Mariners defeated the White Sox 4-3 and they improve to 13-10. Chicago drops to 5-16. Felix Hernandez with the win. James Shields with the loss. Edwin Diaz with the save. Not going to go over all the scoring because I really don't have time to do that today. Astros defeated the Angels 5-2 to improve to 17-9 to take over first in the AL West. Angels dropped to 16-9. Justin Verlander win. Nick Tropiano with the loss. Ken Giles with the save. The Rockies defeated the Padres 5-2 as they improved to 14-12. The Padres dropped to 9-17. John Gray with the win. Tyson Ross with the loss. Nationals defeated the Giants 15-2 as they improved to 11-14. San Francisco drops to 11-13. Max Scherzer with the win. Jeff Samardzija with the loss. Game 1 of a doubleheader between the Tigers and the Pirates. The Tigers defeated the Pirates 13-10 as they improved to 10-11. Pittsburgh drops to 12-11. The Yankees defeated the Twins 7-4 as they improved to 14-9. The Twins dropped to 8-11 as Didi Gregorius stays red hot. Chad Green with the win. Lance Lynn with the loss. And Aroldis Chapman with the save. The Braves defeated the Reds 5-4 in Ronald Acuna's big league debut. Atlanta improves to 13-10. Cincinnati drops to 5-19. Daniel Winkler with the win. Kevin Shackelford with the loss. And A.J. Minter with the save. The Indians defeated the Cubs 4-1. I had the Indians on the podcast yesterday. Trevor Bauer with the win. John Lester with the loss. Cody Allen with the save. The Cubs dropped to 11-10 as the Indians improved to 13-9. The Rays defeated the Orioles 8-4 as Tampa improves to 9-13. Baltimore drops to 6-18. Andrew Kitteridge with the win. Alex Cobb with the loss. The Phillies defeat the Diamondbacks 5-3 as they improve to 15-8. Arizona drops to 13-7. Jake Arrieta with the win. Zach Greinke with the loss. Hector Neris with the save. The Red Sox defeat the Blue Jays 4-3 to snap their 3-game losing streak as they improve to 18-5. Toronto drops to 14-9. The Marlins defeat the Dodgers 8-6 as they improve to 7-17. The Dodgers fall below 500 at 11-12. Mirandy Gonzalez with the win. Clayton Kershaw with the loss. The Rangers defeat the Athletics 4-2 as they improve to 9-17. Oakland drops to 13-12. Jesse Chavez with the win. Kendall Graveman with the loss. Keone Kela with the save. The Brewers, winners of 9 in a row, defeat the Royals 6-2. I'm sorry, 8 straight for the Brewers now. 16-9. Milwaukee improves to, and Casey drops to 5-17. The Cardinals defeat the Mets 9-1 as they improve to 14-9. The Mets drop to 15-7. In Game 2 of the doubleheader between the Pirates and the Tigers, the Pirates defeat the Tigers 8-3 as they improve to 13-11. Detroit drops to 10-12. Chad Cole with the win. Matt Boyd with the loss. Your pitching matchups for today. Braves, Reds, you have Sean Newcomb against Homer Bailey. Tigers, Pirates, you have Michael Fulmer and Ivan Nova. Twins, Yankees, Kyle Gibson and Jordan Montgomery. Diamondbacks, Phillies, Matt Koch and Ben Lively. Mets, Cardinals, you have Noah Syndergaard against Carlos Martinez. That was the opening day pitchers. Mariners, Indians, James Paxton and Mike Clevenger. Rays, Orioles, you have Chris Archer and Dylan Bundy. Red Sox, Blue Jays, Chris Sale and Marco Estrada. Brewers, Cubs, Chase Anderson and Kyle Hendricks. And last but not least, White Sox, Royals, Lucas Giolito against Jacob Junis. My last mock draft before the real draft. Not many changes from yesterday, but we have changes at the top, though. Number 1, Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield, quarterback, Oklahoma. There's growing momentum that the Browns are going to select Mayfield first overall tonight. Could the reports be wrong? Possibly. Sam Darnold and Josh Allen are possibilities. 2, Giants, Saquon Barkley, running back, Penn State. When it's all said and done, the Giants snag the best player in the draft. There's chatter that they select Sam Darnold here if the Browns pass on him, and the trade down is a possibility as well. 3, New York Jets, Sam Darnold, quarterback, USC. Even the Jets can't screw this up. Darnold is the choice here as the Jets select the draft's best quarterback. Although, I don't see them passing up on Baker Mayfield if he's here, regardless of whether Darnold's here or not. 4, Cleveland Browns from the Houston Texans. Bradley Chubb, defensive end, outside linebacker, NC State. There's a distinct possibility that this pick's traded. Let's say the Browns take Chubb here to pair with Myles Garrett. 5, Denver Broncos, Josh Rosen, quarterback, UCLA. John Elway really wants to trade down, but the Broncos haven't needed a quarterback. They take Rosen to be their long-term answer at the position. 6, Indianapolis Colts from the Jets. Quentin Nelson, guard, Notre Dame. The Colts take Nelson here to help their offensive line as they have to keep Andrew Luck healthy. Nelson is easily the best offensive lineman in the draft. It'd be shocking to see him fall past 8th. It also won't be surprising if the Colts trade down again. 7, Tampa Bay Bucks, Derwin James, safety, Florida State. James being picked at this spot is gaining momentum as we are approaching the draft. James is arguably the best defensive playmaker in the draft, and the Bucks have a huge need at safety. 8, Chicago Bears, Roquan Smith, linebacker, Georgia. Smith's stock is rising as we approach the draft, and it won't be shocking if he's picked higher than this. The Rangers, Mike Lombardi, think there's an outside chance the Giants select Smith at 2, which I think is ludicrous. Smith would fit nicely in the Bears' defense as they are in need of playmakers. 9, San Francisco 49ers, Tremaine Edmonds, linebacker, Virginia Tech. The Niners almost have to take a linebacker here if Edmonds or Roquan Smith is available due to the uncertainty of Reuben Foster. Edmonds will be 20 years old once the season starts. 10, Oakland Raiders, Denzel Ward, cornerback, Ohio State. John Gruden and company have options, whether it's defensive back, linebacker, if one of those two are still on the board with Smith and Edmonds, or even defensive line. Let's say they take Ward here. He's the best corner in the draft. His skill set is hard to come by in the league. 11, Dolphins, Minkah Fitzpatrick. The Dolphins got a steal here with Fitzpatrick, arguably the best defensive player in the draft, and his versatility makes him special. Don't rule out the Dolphins taking a quarterback here either. 12, Buffalo Bills from the Cincinnati Bengals. Josh Allen, quarterback, Wyoming. I think the Bills move up and take one of these quarterbacks. It doesn't help Allen that he was forced to delete old tweets that had racial slurs in them from back when he was in high school. I don't think it matters. Teams are desperate to move up for quarterbacks, and Allen has the highest ceiling among the quarterbacks in the draft. 13, Washington Redskins, Vita Vea, defensive tackle, Washington. This pick makes a ton of sense for Washington. The Redskins have to consider a bunch of different options as well, but Vea makes a lot of sense. 14, Green Bay, Mike McGlinchey. The Packers should probably go defense, but protecting Aaron Rodgers is important too. 15, Arizona Cardinals, Lamar Jackson, quarterback, Louisville. The Cards can trade up. Don't rule out an offensive lineman or a defensive player at this spot if they don't trade up. But a foundation of Jackson and David Johnson long-term is tough to pass up on. 16, Ravens, DJ Moore. Moore gets picked here by the Ravens as momentum is building in that direction. Don't rule out an lineman or Calvin Ridley or even a quarterback in this spot. 17, Chargers, Deron Payne. If they take Payne here, that would be a deadly trio with him and Ingram and Joey Bosa. 18, Seattle Seahawks, Marcus Davenport. Davenport is a very Seahawks type of player. They have a need now on the defensive end as their defense is aging and they've got rid of guys lately. 19, Dallas Cowboys, Leighton Vander Esch, linebacker, Boise State. The Cowboys pass on a receiver and take the linebacker in Vander Esch. Don't rule out a defensive lineman or even a defensive back in the spot as well. 20, Detroit Lions, Harold Landry, defensive end, outside linebacker, Boston College. Landry's pegged to go all over the place, but it would be a surprise if he fell out of the first round. He'd be a nice pairing with Ziggy Ansah on the pass rush. 21, Cincinnati Bengals from the Buffalo Bills, James Daniels, center, Iowa. This pick feels like either Daniels or Arkansas's Frank Rangro, as the Bengals need help to protect Andy Dalton. Don't rule out a linebacker or a pass rusher here either. 22, Buffalo Bills from the Kansas City Chiefs, Maurice Hurst, defensive tackle, Michigan. This pick's in all likelihood going to be traded in whatever package the Bills take to move up to get a quarterback. Hurst might drop due to that heart condition he had at the combine, but he is a first-round talent. He doesn't have size that teams are generally looking for, but his quickness makes up for that. 23, Patriots, Colton Miller, the tackle from UCLA. Miller had a good year last year at UCLA. He'd fit on the Pats O-line as he would replace Nate Solder. 24, Carolina Panthers, Will Hernandez, guard UTEP. No-brainer here as the Panthers find a replacement for Andrew Norrell. He's big and powerful and provides mobility. 25, Tennessee Titans, Rashaan Evans, linebacker, Alabama. The Titans have a need at linebacker, and Evans would be a nice fit. He was more of an edge defender earlier in his college career, but the last 2 years he's shown more of a traditional role at linebacker. 26, Atlanta Falcons, Taven Bryan, defensive tackle, Florida. The Falcons take Bryan here to help replace Dontari Poe on the defensive line. Bryan has drawn comparisons to J.J. Watt in the past. 27, New Orleans Saints, Dallas Goedert, tight end, South Dakota State. Goedert's draft stock is trending down due to injury concerns. Goedert is thought out by some to be the best tight end in the draft class and would be a nice weapon for Drew Brees. 28, Pittsburgh Steelers, Josh Jackson, corner, Iowa, with Rashaan Evans and Leighton Vander Esch off the board. The Steelers take Jackson, who is someone that might go in the top 15 or completely fall out of the first round. He led the FBS in interceptions last season, and he has size and speed. 29, Jacksonville Jaguars, Calvin Ridley, wide receiver, Alabama. Ridley dropping this far would be a massive steal for the Jags as they find someone to replace Allen Robinson. Ridley brings a downfield speedy option on the outside that would bring a different look to the Jags offense. 30, Minnesota Vikings, Isaiah Wynn, guard, offensive tackle from Georgia. The Vikes bolster their offensive line by selecting Wynn, who could be a possible steal. He can play tackle if needed, but will succeed as a guard instantly and plays with outstanding leverage and has the athleticism to mirror pass rushers. 31, New England Patriots, Mike Hughes, cornerback, UCF. The Pats decide whether to take Tom Brady's long-term replacement, a tight end to replace Gronk long-term, or to get a young defensive player. They decided to go defense and take Hughes here to replace Malcolm Butler in their secondary. 32, Philadelphia Eagles, Jair Alexander, cornerback, Louisville. Alexander is a fast riser on many people's mock boards as the Eagles take a corner to replace Patrick Robinson. He's great in man-to-man coverage and could be drafted higher than this. Quickly, I'm going to go over every team's needs for the draft. Atlanta, defensive end, defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, cornerback, offensive line. Arizona, quarterback, cornerback, safety, wide receiver, linebacker, and offensive line. Baltimore, wide receiver, offensive line, tight end, running back, defensive end. Buffalo, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, offensive line, linebacker. Carolina, wide receiver, offensive line, cornerback. Chicago, defensive end, linebacker, cornerback, safety, wide receiver. Cincinnati, offensive line, linebacker, defensive end, cornerback, wide receiver. Cleveland, quarterback, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, safety. Dallas, wide receiver, defensive end, linebacker, safety, corner. Denver, quarterback, offensive line, wide receiver, running back, safety, cornerback. Detroit, defensive line, defensive tackle, linebacker, offensive line, running back. Green Bay, cornerback, safety, defensive end, defensive tackle, linebacker, offensive line, wide receiver. Houston, offensive line, cornerback, safety, tight end. Indianapolis, offensive line, running back, linebacker, cornerback, safety, tight end. Jacksonville, wide receiver, offensive line, tight end. Kansas City, cornerback, safety, wide receiver, defensive end, linebacker. Chargers, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker. Rams, cornerback, tight end, offensive line, defensive end. Miami, defensive end, linebacker, cornerback, safety, and quarterback. And I put that with an asterisk because they really don't need one. Although Ryan Tannehill is probably not the answer long term with his injury issues in the past. Vikings, offensive line, linebacker, defensive end, cornerback. New England, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, safety, quarterback, long-term to replace Brady, tight end, and wide receiver. I have quarterback with an asterisk because I really don't think they necessarily need one. Although Brady is aging, and this is a good quarterback draft class. New Orleans, tight end, defensive end, linebacker, wide receiver, safety. Giants, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, quarterback, long-term, replace Eli, and have that with an asterisk because I don't think they have to pick one in this draft, unlike other people think. And a running back. Jets, quarterback, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, wide receiver. Oakland, linebacker, cornerback, safety, defensive end, offensive line, wide receiver. Philadelphia, offensive line, cornerback, wide receiver. Pittsburgh, linebacker, defensive end, cornerback, safety, tight end. San Francisco, linebacker, defensive end, safety, cornerback, offensive line. Seattle, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, safety, wide receiver, tight end, and running back. Tampa Bay, cornerback, safety, defensive end, linebacker, offensive line, running back. Tennessee, linebacker, defensive end, defensive tackle, wide receiver. Washington, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, safety, wide receiver. All right, last I'm going to make predictions for the draft. I'm going to make one for every team, whether these come true tonight or not. Atlanta. I'm going to say they take a defensive lineman in the first round to help replace Dontari Poe in that secondary. Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to say they trade up for a quarterback instead of taking Lamar Jackson at 15. I think they'll trade up a few spots and take Jackson with the threat of possibly teams behind them taking them. Baltimore. They take a wide receiver in the first round, and I'm going to say it's DJ Moore. Buffalo, I think it's inevitable that they trade up into the top 10 for a quarterback. Carolina, they take Will Hernandez because that feels like a very Panthers pick in the first round. Chicago. I'm going to say that they take a linebacker in the first round, but take a secondary piece in the second round. Cincinnati. They take one of the centers to help protect Andy Dalton, whether it's Frank Rangro, James Daniels, or Billy Price. Cleveland. I'm going to say they trade back from number 4. I think that is a distinct possibility. Dallas. I'm going to say they pass on a wide receiver and take a defensive player to make an impact defensively, which I wouldn't mind that move. They can take a receiver later in the draft. Detroit Lions. Take a pass rusher to go with Ziggy Ansah. Green Bay. I'm going to go ballsy and say they move up and select either Denzel Ward or Minkah Fitzpatrick. Houston. They don't have a first-round pick, but their first selection of the draft will be a secondary piece. Indianapolis trades back from number 6. Jacksonville. I'm going to say they take a wide receiver to help out Blake Bortles late in that first round. Kansas City. With their first pick tomorrow, take a secondary piece to help replace Marcus Peters in that secondary. Chargers. Take Deron Payne, because that just seems like a very Chargers pick with their first pick. Rams. They don't have a pick in the first round, but with their first pick, whenever it is, we'll take an offensive lineman to help protect Jared Goff as Andrew Whitworth is aging. Miami won't pick a quarterback in the draft. Minnesota. I'm going to say they bolster their offensive line in the first round as one of those good linemen dropped to them, whether it's Isaiah Wynn or Colton Miller or somebody like that. New England. They trade up, but not for a quarterback. Let's say they trade up and try to get one of those young linebackers or even one of those young secondary players. But I'm going to say they trade up for somebody, and I don't know at what spot. New Orleans. I think it's inevitable that they pick a tight end with their first round pick, whether it's Dallas Goedert or Mike Gesicki or Hayden Hurst. Giants. Everyone's saying that they're going to take Saquon Barkley with their second pick. I believe that will be the case too. But my bold prediction for the Giants is that they take Mason Rudolph in the second round as he falls to them. Jets. I'm going to say Sam Darnold falls to them at 3. I think they'll be delighted by it, and it'll be the first good move by the Jets that will actually turn out great for them in a very long time. Oakland. They're a tough team to gauge. I'm going to say they take a secondary player with the 10th overall pick. I think that's very likely. And let's say in the second round, this is going to actually be my bold prediction for the Raiders. Second round, they take a tight end because John Gruden really likes to have 2 tight ends. So let's say one of those 3 tight ends, whether it's Goedert, Gesicki, or Hayden, whatever one falls to Oakland in the second round will be their second round pick. Philadelphia trades out of the first round completely and somebody moves up. It could very well be the Giants for Mason Rudolph. And I think that's a distinct possibility, or even the Bears to try to get somebody, or we'll see. But yeah, I think Philly moves out of the first round. Pittsburgh. I'm going to say that they try to trade up for a linebacker, but they failed to do so as they take a piece to improve their secondary with their first round pick, which isn't the worst thing in the world. San Francisco. I'm going to say in the second round, they take a secondary piece that drops from the first round. Or a projected first round pick that drops to them in the second round, they take to improve their secondary. Seattle. This is a tough team to gauge. I'm going to say they take a defensive lineman in the first round. That's my prediction for them. Tampa Bay. I think it seems inevitable that they're going to take a safety, whether it's Minkah Fitzpatrick or Derwin James in the first round. But let's say in the second round, they draft a running back. Maybe Sonny Michel, maybe Nick Chubb, maybe Darius Geis, who I think stock is dropping. But I'm going to say the Bucs draft a running back in the second round. The Tennessee Titans. This is another tough team to gauge. I'm going to say they're the team that makes a reach in the first round, and everybody's going to be criticizing them for passing up on a good player. Washington. I think Vita Vea is going to be their pick in the first round if he's still there. But my prediction for the Redskins is that they take a wide receiver in either the second or third round, as their receivers haven't really panned out over the last couple seasons. I'm going to say they take like Cortland Sutton or Christian Kirk in the second or third round, or maybe Anthony Miller of Memphis or somebody like that. James Washington of Oklahoma State's an option. All right, that's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the first round of the draft and all the playoff action in baseball. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.